All right, here we go again. You know, the United Nations was at once a good organization. And it's really a shame where we are now. Like in Bosnia and all of that, they really worked to establish a police force after the conflict and things and during the peace. Well, they're obviously political, number one. Number two, they really didn't work with Russia to stop that conflict. Whether Russia would have came along if the United Nations actually reached out to them, I can't tell you that part because you never did. And that's what you're there to do. But you notice what's going on now, right? Right. So again, the model that we used back then works. And that was contracted police officers. Police officers, they were military police or regular police officers, would deploy, retired police officers, whatever it was, would deploy on a contract. So that's something we probably want to think about. So again, if you probably look up the Bosnian conflict, you'll probably find something that'll work for Iran. I know it was a CSO, court security officer, that worked in Baltimore. It was a retired Baltimore City guy, I think, and he worked as a contractor. It was always Dynacore. I don't really trust that, but somebody's wrong. It's no saying. That's funny. So again, quality control. So Dynacore was the contractor. I believe they were infiltrated by corrupt CIA. But again, that's not everybody. They actually tried to kill me, but that's another story. Right. So we have to start thinking about that. I saw something, it was ISN instead of US Navy, which I don't get it, but it wouldn't be Iranian Navy either. So we have to start thinking about that moment. Unfortunately, like I said, the United Nations is AWOL and has been AWOL. It started with, I guess, I don't know, was Kofi? I guess Kofi was the next guy after Bosnia, or was he in Bosnia? Who's the guess it was. It started going corrupt. It could have been from these contracts. You know. Now, there was some human trafficking. Yeah. But who was it? Again, you got to put the good people in there and work. So again, I don't think if the UN couldn't handle it back then, they can't handle it now. So, but that's the model we're probably going to have to go with. Now, I don't know if the Arab nations want to help out with a peacekeeping force or not. I'm not sure what you're working with them, right? But I would prefer, you know, we need to move some Islamic people in there. You know, well Islamic people. Right? You just need to respect that part of a lot of people's lives that are in Iran, and that would help us in maintaining kind of a bilateral relationship. You know, you have Pahlavi and all those people, but they're not going to be able to set up a police force. At least I don't believe, unless they have somebody already working on it. And again, they can be part of that. Well, you're going to need a police force as soon as possible. There's going to be a lot of other stuff coming up down the pike or down the road. Likes your coffee. But we need to start thinking what we can do to, pull our people back at a certain point. Whoever our people are, I don't know who you're going to get. Maybe I'll use Tucker Carlson. What did Tucker study in college? Mao? It's a follower of Mao now. Because Mao's paying money, I'm sure it's that. Yeah, people are shadow paid, man, and shadow extorted. Grind that bean. I got so many different beans in there, I don't even know what it is. It's like every time I change the bean, I'll dump some whatever is left into this one bag. I mean, it's good. It's interesting. But so then the European Union police mission came in there. How'd that affect? I don't think but this is along the lines of what I've been speaking about. When the European Union police mission in Bosnia and Herzegovina came in, that was post that contractor. So that's another idea. But again, even with contractors, maybe, yeah, they should have been there helping us. But not the EU. Pakistan, the Emirates, and that kind of thing, and Saudi Arabia. So it does look like that worked better than the initial contract with the United Nations. So the contact. I mean, you still might use contractors, but if we can, the handoff. That was my idea in the coalition in Desert Storm and Persian Gulf War. That how is there going to be a vacuum of power? You're going to say Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, whoever else was there. Like the Mahdim was there, whoever else was there, and you're going to say, here, take over. Saddam's gone. Right. So again, that should be a focus. I know Rez Pahlavi wants to run Iran, but when you have nations like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, or Qatar, however you say it, people say it different ways. United Arab Emirates, they're running governments right now, so they can come in and help keep the peace. I mean, the worst case scenario, and again, this is something that we need to negotiate, something we need to realize. If they do not accept Rez Pahlavi in certain regions of Iran, it may need to be broken up into several countries. It's a fairly large landmass. It isn't like, again, it might run better. And the idea is, if it's going to be broken up, it's going to be a negotiation. It's going to be an agreement. So there won't be a war. I mean, if there is dissension that we can't overcome, you might, it's been done before. Again, like I said, Iran is, or not Iran, the UN is AWOL. It seems like they're available to do the things they usually do. Again, the idea of being extorted and bribed comes up. Three main pillars. What is that? Support the police reform. Support the police reform by strengthening the police accountability. Oh, the things that that makes sense. So I would go to the European Union. I'm on Wikipedia. You probably find more information on the places. European Union Police Mission in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It sounds like it's a good framework, and the three pillars that they worked under. Because what they're also doing is reestablishing a police department, right, of indigenous people that live there. Let me see. Okay, so it monitored, advised, and inspected BIH police forces according to the three main pillars, i.e., support to the police reform process, strengthening of police accountability, and supporting the fight against organized crime. The Iranian regime was organized crime. Right. So let's hope that all works. But that, you can put a team of people together on that. It's crazy how they support Iran. Huh? I mean, those people that are running Europe are killing their people. They're actually worse than Biden. Right? And they're beholden to Iran for some reason. I believe extortion and bribery. That's what I believed it was the whole time. All right, I'll just see. So what are they doing in the palace in Palestine? Do they do anything? Supposedly they were in Afghanistan. UPOL, UPIN. Or actually, I can pull this up. Yeah, here. Nothing. No, it wouldn't be anything illegal, but I don't want like my social security number popping up. Okay, so here we are in Wikipedia. The European police mission in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Also pulled this up. The police mission, UPOL, UPIN, or whatever it's called. You can see the Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kinshasa, Congo, Afghanistan, Palestine. So we could look at those. And there's other stuff. I mean, there's stuff that the United States did. So again, what we don't want to get into is this idea that the United States is there to police Iran forever. So the goal is to even find somebody that may have been a police officer that actually, never engaged in some of that other stuff. And again, they had the Pol Pot thing going on. Either kill your neighbor or you'll be killed. It's a horrible thing. Right. Deep State kind of used that. To a lesser degree, but they still use it. The one in the United States, because Deep State in Europe exists also. Deep State in Iran exists. Little wrong mission concept. Well, it would be preferable that, like I said, Arabic nations, Islamic nations, even Malaysia, Indonesia, that they would come in. It's just, again, it is somewhat of an Islamic nation, and it would just be easier for that movement away from the former regime. And again, that's what Gant tried to do somewhat. Right. And see, that's actually what Hegseth is speaking about. Like, we're not here because, again, when did Gant start? Gant should have started in 2002. Right. And Major Gant being there, no tribe left behind, or whatever it's called. One tribe at a time, that's it. Right. And that's generally what Pahlavi's trying to do in Iran is, no tribe left behind, but I don't know if it's going to work. And again, the idea that Iran, I didn't realize it had that much landmass. But now that I do, again, it's not what Pahlavi wants, not what, what some Iranians want. But again, if the answer is to create Kurdistan, Iran, and one other country, then so be it. Because again, the idea is to get rid of Iran and to show success from that, or not Iran, the former. It's what's weird about it, because we are, Iran. That's why I try to call it Persia. It makes more sense to me. Easier to define in the mind. Right? Of course, Hashem said call it Persia. The former regime in Iran. We're not fighting Iran. We're fighting the former regime, because I believe they're overthrown. It's just a matter of time. So, again, to prove that that was the right thing to do, Iran might have to be broken up into three. And the idea is it's not broken up based upon, that's why we have to not monitor it. We have to be proactive about what people are going to accept. I mean, of course, at first you try to keep it together, but if that's the best option, because we don't want warring situations. Because they'll say, see, it didn't work. Because there's people out there that are doing that. They're online right now, spycraft operating the Kurds into a frenzy of wanting their own state. But then again, like I said, you could give them what's known in the United States as a state. Break Iran up into different state governments with a common defense and a common goal, which makes sense. So again, Pahlavi should, you call them provinces, whatever it is. Say, look, we'll give you a province. You'll have, rule in your province. You'll elect people to the central body, but we'll stick together and be stronger together. But if it fails, don't let it degrade into war. Come up with a good plan and break it up into three separate nations, right? Or two separate nations, whatever it becomes. Don't let something get in the way of proving that this was the right thing to do. Because there's people in the United States right now coming against the United States. There is no way that they're not empowering Iran. There's just no way they're empowering Iran, the former regime. And 20 years ago, they'd be locking them up. They wouldn't even do it because they'd be afraid of being locked up. Right? I watch Schiff speak. He's careful what words he uses. Because, he's trying to, deny that he's actually empowering the former regime of Iran that just hangs people willy-nilly and shoots them in the street. Biden himself spent a certain amount of money fighting Iran, a certain amount of military force. That's what started it. Trump doesn't want to admit it, but Biden's the one that started it, not him. Right? That's when you get these, these egos involved. The same thing as in Iran. Don't get your egos involved. Just make it work the best you can. One nation is probably the best to break it down into states or provinces. It could be the province of Kurdistan if they want it to be. But again, work with the central government is much better. Well, they're going to build a representative government. Again, it could be something similar. I don't know where it's going to end, but like Jordan, he built a representative government, a constitutional government. So we need to think about law and order. We need to try to figure out who it is going to run that. Now, when it comes to contracts, DHS and Kristi Noem, she was probably on the right side of most of it, if not all of it. And again, everybody knows it always happens. Because the government's just so large and so bombastic, there are issues that crop up. Again, with Hillary Clinton, that happens. The server, this, that, don't do it again, slap. That's what you do. But I believe she was set up. I believe Kristi Noem was set up by professionals somewhere along the way to have that kind of ability to put that on. Just got to figure out who they were and destroy them. So we've had a lot of advisory missions over the years. Here's the European Union. You'll find the United States in some of that. But the goal is this. When we see the European Union in the Sudan and in places where the people don't look like them, it's not as successful. Central Africa, now Kosovo, we see them up there in Libya, Moldova, Ukraine's okay. So this is the key, and why I'm addressing the Arabic nations. It's time for them to, and the Islamic nations, it's time for them to step up and help out here. Because Americans can't, because there's always that argument, oh, the occupier are American, and having a lot of Christians around it. And there are Christians that will be in Iran. There will be Jews that will be in the new Iran. But again, I think it'd just be easier that when you're confronting former regime supporters, again, they're deep state. That's who they were. That's who they are. The people out in the street supporting the regime, that's the deep state. The dirty regime, and again, it's happening in the United States, will figure out how, because they're narcissists and sociopaths, how many people they can F off, ruin, without being deposed. So they'll make certain people rich and give certain people well life. But usually that number starts shrinking at a certain point because the narcissists are never happy until they destroy people. So to manage those people the best that we can, you would probably do better with Malaysians, Indonesians, Saudis, Emirati people, Bahrain, whoever, Pakistan. So again, I would contact those nations and just say, hey, think about it. We might need you to help resettle Iran and keep the peace. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.